The Vikings weren't blonde and blue-eyed. Scientists have sequenced the genomes of over 400 Vikings. These were men, women, and children buried in ancestral mounds. The samples came from all over Scandinavia and elsewhere. Many of them were not Scandinavian at all. Apparently, Viking was more of a job description. It had little to do with heredity. The study took 6 years to complete. A group of researchers analyzed the DNA from teeth and bones. The 442 genomes dated back to between 2400 BC and 1600 AD. These people lived for the most part during the Viking Age. The researchers compared the DNA to other DNA sequences. 3,855 came from modern-day individuals. 1,118 belonged to other ancient individuals. This sweeping gene analysis paints a complicated picture. Iron Age groups lived in Scandinavia from 500 BC to 780, but the Vikings weren't related to them. Rather, the Vikings intermingled often. They had genes from Asian and Southern European populations. Many Vikings had high levels of non-Scandinavian ancestry. They also had brown hair. There were genetic differences among different Viking populations. This suggests that Viking groups were isolated from each other. The coastal communities had high genetic diversity. This was likely due to more trading and the spread of people. The communities in the heartland of Scandinavia were more homogeneous. Comparing ancient and modern genes was useful in other ways too. The researchers found out how the Vikings moved out of Scandinavia. They would travel to raid and trade. Vikings from present-day Denmark typically went to England. Vikings from Sweden went mostly east, to the Baltic region. Vikings from Norway traveled to Ireland, Iceland, Greenland, and the Isle of Man. There were also female Viking warriors. In 2017, researchers analyzed the DNA from a burial. It belonged to a 10th century Viking warrior. There were weapons and 2 horses in the burial mound. The bones turned out to be female. Buried along with her were a sword, an axe, a spear, some arrows, a battle knife, and shields. There was also a war-planning board game in her lap. This indicates that she was a military strategist, as well as a fighter. Some Viking burial costumes have Arabic writing on them. This discovery was made in 2017 by Swedish researchers. The garments were found in 9th and 10th century graves. There are numerous Arabic inscriptions spelling Allah and Ali. This probably means the Vikings were influenced by Islamic ideas. There is ample evidence that they had contact with Persians. This shouldn't come as a surprise. After all, Vikings were the first Europeans to reach North America. Leif Erikson sailed all the way to Vinland. Historians believe that Vinland was the Viking name for America. It seems likely that the Vikings reached modern-day Newfoundland. Leif invited his father Eric the Red on the voyage, but Eric fell off his horse on the way to the ship. He took it as a bad omen and refused to sail. Eric died in Greenland in an epidemic that killed many colonists. Meanwhile, Leif established a settlement in Newfoundland. His brother Thorvald was killed by Native Americans. Ultimately, the natives drove the Vikings out of Newfoundland.